stand by to fade up to camera 2. Stand by to cue talent. Stand by to raise mics in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, I'm Marty McCue. You know, technology is moving forward at lightning speed, and those in the television industry need to keep pace. Fortunately for students here, Salem High School has always maintained a state-of-the-art television studio and provided the appropriate training for students who want to pursue a career in this exciting field. The idea of a television studio might have seemed quite frivolous in 1969 when Salem High School was expanded to include an area for drama and television. But today it's quite common to find a television studio in a high school setting. The television production program and the educational access station have both proven quite valuable in keeping staff, students, and parents informed about what's going on in the schools. In this special, we were able to speak to some of the people who were instrumental in the planning and the development of the TV studio. They shared their fondest memories of the TV class, the TV studio, and some of the projects they worked on all the way back to the 1970s. We hope you enjoy this special.
He's up there! And a tap-off, won by Salem.
This is CTV 30, Salem School District Television.
From the very beginning, I wrote the educational specs for the high school and this edition. And we involved teachers. Quite a number of teachers had some say. Arthur Berlin had a great deal of input into what went into the television in this area of the school building, the libraries.
Good evening. I'm Art Berlin, Director of Media Services in the Salem School District.
A lot of what you have here was a result of the design work at Salem High School to enlarge Salem High School in 1968 and 69. 69 was the year I spent at Boston University in an internship for an experimental master's program in educational media.
The television studio sort of came along with the things that came with the new building. When Salem High School opened, we had really great science lab. We had done some things a little different with lecture labs. Everybody was quite pleased. Then growth, we needed an addition. And the new addition, this particular room was really established for drama. We thought might be something that would be scheduled quite heavily in the school, but it didn't turn out, in the long run, that didn't turn out so well. But in the process of talking about it, someone said, well, maybe we could use television in the school.
I do remember the open house and like, what are we going to do with this? And we used this studio as the first place that people came to visit.
Welcome to the open house at Salem High School. The purpose of this open house is to acquaint the public with the facilities constructed as an addition to the high school. The addition was conceived in order to provide space for additional enrollments and to increase the potential of our educational programs. This new facility will permit us to maintain our current educational programs and to offer some expanded services in new directions. The new library and media center was placed in this portion of the addition in order to make it more readily accessible to after hours so that we might have longer hours for school children to reach the library and to have these facilities open for the public. The Drama and Television Studio provides us with a resource to try new and innovative instructional techniques. We have the capability of producing television programs and videotape that can be shown throughout this building. In time, we hope that the community will have cable television, at which time we will be assigned an open channel that will make it necessary and possible to show programs throughout the community and all our school buildings.
Part of the television studio was the, quote, and it wasn't the fad of the day, but it was the tool of the day. It was an up-and-coming tool, and local high schools such as Chelmsford, Bill Ricker, those Merrimack Valley towns that had television and television production part of their program, that's where we thought this would go. We began to see some possibilities of highlighting things that happened in the Salem School using video and using the new cable television. And it was then Salem Cable Television. People like Lloyd McLean, who ran Salem Building Supply, it was a local company. And the second part of it is, after about a year into the program, that was one branch. The other branch is that we had someone come and actually say, gee, I'd like to teach television. My name's David Russell. I'm a Vietnam War veteran. I'm at Graham Junior College, and I'd like to teach television. And I always envisioned this as a training grounds for kids in television. And we had to prove it. Then we had an opportunity to try it. And David came, taught 6 or 8 kids here in the studio, and it eventually grew into what it is today. And the nice thing about it is we've got between 2 and 3 Emmy Award winners as a result of the program. And a lot of the things that we shot were, let's start off with sports. Did all the football games, and we did that before the studio was finished.
The following is a Salem High School sports spectacular. This is Doug Cook saying thanks for being with us, and we'll look for you next week.
I can recall coming back 1 week to my consulting positions here in Salem, and Dr. Johnson said, there's some boxes you might want to look at in the next room. And it was a 2-camera, 1 videotape, maybe 2 tape recorders, big half-inch Craig reel-to-reel, JVC, Japan Victor Corporation, state-of-the-art television cameras, black and white. And I believe we started doing, along with Bruce McKenna, who then was the assistant superintendent, we actually did football games from high atop Grant Field. And those were the first that we would broadcast, rebroadcast for the teams in this room because we had the monitors. When we found out we could do local broadcasting, and there were a bunch of what I would call cowboys that ran Salem Cable. They're all guys from Pennsylvania, and they would come down because they liked the studio and what it had to offer. And they were doing cable TV bingo, and that's when I went to Lloyd and asked him, could we possibly broadcast some of the school tapes that we've done? Monday Night Football was one of them. Another one was the first program that we did, and the first program we telecast was called Christmas in the Salem Schools. And it was broadcast all day Christmas, December 25th, 1971. That was our first telecast. The head end was in Derry. You lugged the recorder, which was probably weighed 45 pounds, up a hill, dirt road, to the tower, to the bunker, and rolled the thing in, connected it audio, video, and played it back. He had even no idea whether it even went on the air. He would call people who lived in the community and see whether, can you see it? Our first live capability came in 1974 as a result of conversation of the new owners of the Salem Cable Television, Continental Cable of Manchester, I believe they were at. Anyway, they came down to talk about the contract, to talk about what could they do to what would make us happy, and a return line was my answer.
We hope to reach more people with what was going on at school board meetings. That was the first focus of the use of television. And they took to it quite readily, in fact. And it became, every meeting that we had was televised.
We shared the channel. It wasn't with something like C-SPAN, because C-SPAN didn't exist. And so when we went on the air, we kicked off things that made people happy. WMTW, Poland Springs, Maine, which was channel 6 out of Portland, Maine, and with Marty Engstrom, who just retired, by the way, from doing his infamous Mount Washington TV broadcast. So you never threw the channel when he was on. You waited until 6:30 or 7 o'clock when he was off the air. That was part of, it was bad community relations, and that's when they changed us from 3 to 8. We were on Monday nights for Salem High School football and basketball. You, as a student, you had student productions that went on various times during the week. There was probably 4 hours of broadcasting a week. School board meetings were live. Prior to that, they were taped. Not only they were taped, but a school district meeting, which took all day on a Saturday, was taped and then replayed. Now, why anyone wanted to watch it again is beyond me. But that we did play them again. And we also did some of the town stuff. We did the town meetings. Because there was no public access channel. We were the access channel. And so that we highlighted student productions, we highlighted what was going on in the school district, which usually was a compilation of musical, seasonal stuff, sports, and student productions.
Hello, and welcome to Schedule 8. Today is Monday, December 13th, and our schedule goes as follows. At 9:30 this morning and 1:30 this afternoon, the letter people meet Mr. C.
part of using this in a teaching setting, and we saw some real advantages to using television, for instance in science, so you didn't have to repeat an experiment over and over again. So we ran staff development programs here in the studio with teachers, and it was well received. They had to create a program, they had to play back the program, they had to show that they understood teamwork. Part of the big advantage of television is you can't do it alone, and you have to work as a team. So that has a valuable lesson for teachers, but it's also a valuable lesson for students, and I think that's part of what television brings to students of all, whether they're adults or students, is that idea of working together and teamwork, and nothing works well unless everyone's working together. We have some interesting staff development programs, and I think we got, at the retirement of Mr. Michael Tuckalo, one of them was dug out of the archives.
Good evening. Welcome to Meet the Pros. My name is Seal Pelletier, and I'm your hostess for tonight's telecast. Tonight we have a very special guest with us. He's the famed baseball coach of Woodbury Junior High in Salem, New Hampshire. And he's going to elaborate on the question of why is hitting so hard? Mike?
Well, hitting, first of all, we could say that hitting is difficult because to excel in hitting, if you make an out 6 out of 10 times, you excel in the game. So it's a very difficult thing. And we'll try to make you an honorary agouti, which is our team mascot over the junior high. She's like a little rat.
Very good, okay.
And whatever you do wrong, you look all right to me. Form's good, so we'll try swinging the bat.
My name is Charles Miller. I was an instructor here at Salem High School. I worked 2 years as an intern from the year of 1974 through 1772 to 1974. And I was a full-time television instructor from 1974 through 1983.
Hi, I'm Mr. Miller, the television instructor here at Salem High School. Discovery is a program on Salem High School, and Discovery is produced, direct, and written by my Television Workshop 2 students.
At the school here, I was fortunate enough to have 4 levels of television production. I had 2 single-period introductory classes where I taught the students about broadcasting, the whole television production process, including all of the individual skill sets for all the positions in the crew, which would be for lighting, set design, camera operator, director, switcher, audio engineer. And my intent was to have a program where students can learn something that's new and unique in a high school level and have fun at the same time, and try to instill some excitement into the program and into the profession to help students may want to look at television as a career opportunity. Students who gained the interest or had developed an interest in the program in the introduction classes were able to fill my 3 two-period advanced classes. In those classes there, the students were able to work on projects for other teachers, to do projects for myself, as well as participate on the crews to do evening programs and Saturday programs.
By 1972, we had some students to work with, and that, I mean, it's pretty hard to run a studio without people. And we had camera operators, and one of the things we're going to do is give students experiences with national figures. Well, New Hampshire's a natural. I mean, every 4 years you have a presidential primary, and we sent letters to all of the primary candidates, inviting them to the studio. We said we would share, and did. Duplicate the tapes, send them to other cable outlets in New Hampshire. It was free. We even sent, we said, you come at your convenience, we'll be here. We came Saturdays, we came in the evenings, sometimes late in the evenings. Sometimes the candidate came alone, sometimes the candidates came with an entourage. Sometimes the candidates were serious. Sometimes the candidates were sort of comics, like Pat Paulson. And they were fun, but it was a great experience for students, and I can recall members of the Senate, Congress, talking to students after the show was over about what did they have for equipment, and I can recall probably the one that brought the most people, although he was here twice, was Ronal Reagan, and the studio was filled with national press, and people could say, well, there's Senator Van Oka for NBC News, and there was quite an experience for students, and the only people allowed in to the taping were the students and the Secret Service pins. As elections went along, you had more Secret Service coverage. You had some kooks like Lyndon LaRouche and his gang of thugs that came with him. But it was good to see the cross-section of American politics, and it happened here, and it was fun. Some of the sets were a little weird, with a donkey and an elephant cardboard hanging off the set. And sometimes it looked like the donkey was coming out of the head of the candidate, or elephant, or whatever. But
my name is Nancy Carney. I graduated from Salem High School in 1977. It was among one of the first classes, I think, to have use of the TV studio.
Hi, my name is Bernie Campbell. I'm a member of the Salem School Board. I'm also a graduate of Salem High School, the class of 1974, and I attended here and was in this studio, one of the first classes of students to be involved in television production here at Salem High School when the building first opened.
My name is David Minkle, and I graduated from Salem High in 1979.
My name is Chuck Samataro. I graduated from Salem High School in 1982. From there, I went to Lyndon State College in Lyndonville, Vermont, and received a Bachelor's of Science degree in Broadcast Technology.
Well, I had the opportunity to be here during a presidential election, and President Ford was coming in. I'm not sure if he was rerunning or stumping for someone else, but we got selected to go out, and we perched ourselves on Elm Street in Manchester with the camera and talked to people all morning, and we're really excited about having the opportunity to talk to the president. And unfortunately, our cameras crashed just as the president was arriving, so we got everything but the president that day.
I took the television production course because, frankly, at the time, and this is now going back to my junior year in high school in the 1972-73 time frame, I intended to study meteorology. In fact, I did my course selection and college selection process focused on the meteorology major, and ended up going to Pennsylvania State University and enrolling originally as a meteorology student. At the time, Penn State was one of the few campuses that actually had a meteorology program. Well, since I was interested in doing meteorology, I was going to do weather on television. I was going to be the next Don Kent of New England, and so I enrolled in the television program to get exposure to television and technology, and to practice my craft of on-air weather prediction. And so that's what started the process, and I brought along and eventually painted up my own map of New England, and I used to come here on Wednesday or Thursday afternoons. We used to tape a show. And I can remember bringing my shortwave radio, listening to the NOAA weather radio outside on the lawn out front, and getting the latest forecast, because we were taping like on a Wednesday. It wasn't going to run for almost a week, so it was like you take the long-range forecast and write that up, and you'd say, well, as of taping, it's 32 degrees here, and that's such and such in Boston. And we used to do a student-run news show about once a week, and I did the weather section.
The experiences and the shows that I worked on that I remember now, one would be election night, the town election, when Delaware North was trying to move the Bruins to the Rockingham Park racetrack site, and the students were the operators of the technical equipment and did the election night coverage for the town of Salem. The other time would be when then Governor Ronal Reagan was running for the White House for the 1980 election. He came to the high school to tape an interview, and the students were the operators of the equipment for the interview, and I have a very vivid memory of running a camera during Ronal Reagan's interview at Salem High School.
Can't decide who to vote for on February 26th presidential election primary? Well, then watch Election 80 right here on CTV 8. On February 21st and repeated again on February 25th, Election Eve, Election 80, the program that features interviews with the top presidential candidates. Election 80, a public affairs presentation of the Salem School District Media Services, seen right here on Channel 8, your local channel for Southern New Hampshire. That's Election 80, Thursday, February 21st, and again, Election Eve, Monday, February 25th at 7:30 p.m., right here on CTV 8, Salem, New Hampshire.
This is Joe Day reporting live from Salem High School, where later tonight the results of today's voting will be reported to the public. There are millions of dollars ultimately at stake in all this, and evidence of that is the considerable time, effort, and money that Delaware North has invested in getting the support and the goodwill of the people of Salem. That effort has been undertaken with the blessing of virtually all the town officials here, and with the knowledge that Rockingham Park had operated here for roughly 3/4 of a century.
I have the opportunity to work with Ruth and Channel 17 and do the yearly elections. It's a lot of fun.
When I was in high school, we didn't have our own station. We used to cut into Channel 8, WMTW, whenever we wanted to broadcast something, whether it was a school board meeting or the letter people. We didn't have an automation system back then either. We just used, everything was done manually. If we wanted to go on the air, we just flipped a switch and ran the tape manually. One of the things I used to do in high school was get out of my study to come down and run the letter people in the afternoon.
Words are made of letter people, A, B, C, D, follow me.
The letter people. Today, meet Mr. J.
See, it's just as I told you, Officer Jabberwocky. A mess.
Jeepers creepers, Judge Jackpot. Who owns this joint?
Mr. J.
By having Salem offer the class, I was able to figure out very early in high school what I basically wanted to do as a career.
I'm here at Tremont Street monorail terminal where this afternoon at 4:45 a monorail fell from a track similar to the one over my head. Nobody was injured. It was only a test run, but costs and damages were an estimate of $30,000. All monorails will not run until each track has been thoroughly checked, which would mean an additional money loss. This is Chuck Samataro reporting from Tremont Street Monorail Terminal for News Center 8.
By the high school offering the program, I was able to learn about the business. I was able to learn about technical aspects and just the whole thought process that the media goes through. And I was able to use those skills to do stuff at the high school level. We didn't have a script writing class. It was more the operation. So one thing that we could do was do sports, and we did a lot of sports. I did a lot of sports. I did high school football, did this New Hampshire Super Bowl when Salem was in it in 1981. Also basketball and some gymnastics and wrestling, a whole bunch of different sports. We weren't able to have a script to try to do a sitcom, but what we did have was high school sports around, and we were able to take the cameras and do stuff either on tape, and in some cases, like in basketball, we did it live, which was a lot of fun. The productions don't really hold up by today's standards, but for a high school class in the early 80s, I look back on it and think, gee, what a great time it was, and I was able to learn stuff then that I now use professionally.
One of the exciting things about the program is you can see students advance and grow within a program. And when they graduate, it's quite thrilling and rewarding to see students be introduced to a profession, as we did here at the high school, and then decide they want to do that as a career and move on. There were students that had gone to colleges to work in the profession, and there was also an individual who went into the Army. And based on his interest of working in the Armed Forces Radio and Television Network, with his experiences here, the United States Army looked at this program, for the material content and the way it was delivered. And at the time, it was the only high school program in the country that was certified by the U.S. Army, so that if a student went into the Army, finished boot camp, he could go directly into, he or she now, could go directly into the Armed Forces Radio Television Network and start working without having to go through the military schools. That individual who went into the military still lives here in Salem, is a freelance producer, cameraman, and is currently still working in the field as a freelance producer. There are other students who are working in the field. I know there's one working at ESPN. There's another individual who is working over at Videotroop over in Windham, New Hampshire. And there's a gentleman who is living out in California who's working with McDonald's organization in charge of their entire video department there. So it's nice to occasionally bump into some of these people and see them. Occasionally I'll get an email from them, and occasionally I'll get a telephone call. Hey, Charlie, how you doing?
My name is Jay Stone. I taught television production here at the high school from 1984 to 1988. One of the community programs that came along at the time was a program called Crime Line, which was an anonymous phone call to the police where you could report a crime. And Crime Line, because it was a volunteer organization, needed some help in explaining how that procedure worked and how it happened. So the students in the class took the time and built an entire program around a typical scenario, how something would work and how somebody would report the crime and how the payoff would happen if there was some kind of reward. And it was a fascinating program. And Larry Belair and Sally Sweet and a number of people who worked with the Crime Line organization in those early years really helped pull it together and do their time. And we created a really fine program that really helped explain to the community how Crime Line worked. One of the things that was important about the program when I taught it and as we started to build the community channel, as it were, was to bring in the town and to try to find projects for the students that helped describe the town and gave them a purpose. We did 2 programs with the fire department. One short program on house numbers because the fire department was having a problem identifying houses because people didn't have their number on the house and would say, well, drive down the street and I'll leave the front porch light on. It was very difficult for the fire department to find the house. The second program we did with them was a Christmas program where we demonstrated what happened when a Christmas tree caught on fire and how dangerous and difficult it was. And it gave the students a very interesting connection to the community and the fire department and how they worked, and also got them out into the field. And the feedback from the people in town was very positive.
I'm Marty McCue, and I teach television production here at Salem High School. The video yearbook was 1 year old when I got here, and I think that means it started in 1989, and there was one version of it, and then I came on and I've done the last 13 or so. Well, the purpose of the video yearbook is to document the high school experience for graduating seniors, and I would say it's changed a great deal since 1989. The first one that I saw was pretty much a straightforward documentary where you had a lot of interviews and a lot of sports highlights.
Stop, watch this move, Mike.
I'm proud to be captains of this year's varsity field hockey team. We were the definition of what a team should be, and we hope it continues when we're gone.
This year was the furthest Salem field hockey has ever gone. We're proud to be the only field hockey team from Salem to ever make the Class L state tournament. Our record ended up being a well-deserved 13-2-2.
We want to thank our team for its unity and for always giving 110%. We'd also like to thank our families, friends, and mostly our coaches, John Gatsis and Colleen Driscoll.
This year's soccer team has improved greatly over the last 2 years.
Although our record doesn't reflect our accomplishments, our pride, dedication, and commitment has.
We also owe a lot to our coach, Gerald Ford, who has restored pride in ourselves and brought us respect from the other teams in Class L.
In my opinion, it wasn't as creative and as fun as it could be. And so I would say that over the years it has evolved to the point of being entertainment as well as a documentary. And that basically means that we've added a lot of music videos and a lot of comedy. Comedy seems to go over really well. And so there is a lot of both now, in addition to the documentary. One of the questions that I'm asked all the time is, how do we get celebrities to appear in the video yearbook? And the answer to that is basically that we ask them. We send them a letter and we include a videotape and we include a script that we would like them to say for us. And we've had some great success in getting them back. We've had celebrities like Tim Conway, Dick Clark, Bob Barker, Jerry Springer, Sally Jesse Raphael, Robin Leach, Jay Leno. Did I say Jay Leno? Anyway, we've gotten a lot of celebrity response, but one thing I think that everyone would have to understand is that in order to get those 10 celebrities to return the tapes, we had to send out maybe 300 or 400 requests to different celebrities, and those were the ones that were kind enough and took the time to help us.
I'm John Kelly, and I teach over at Woodbury School. I'm one of the music teachers.
Don't go away. You're watching In the Spotlight right here on Salem's Learning Channel 6. Back right after this.
In the Spotlight was actually thought up by our superintendent, Dr. Hank Labranch. Years ago, he said it would be nice if we could have more live programming. And I let it go for a couple of years, then all of a sudden I remembered when he said that. One thing led to another, and I got in touch with Bob Berthel, and then we spoke to all of the different music teachers in the district, and it was a great way to showcase some of the talented music students, whether they were in 3rd grade right up through seniors in high school. We've had some great instrumentalists, we've had some great vocalists, but I think some of the funniest moments of all came during the interviews. The kids would perform, and then they'd come over and they'd chat with me. And kids do say the darndest things, and we had some real fun moments with that show.
Lying beside you, here in the dark, feeling your heartbeat with mine.
How long have you been singing?
For a year and a half, I've been in private lessons and been singing since I could talk.
Wow. And who do you take private lessons from?
Camille Peters.
It's great that we can videotape the concerts and the kids and teachers can watch themselves. It's a great way to critique. It's a great way to improve on the students' performance. And a lot of kids tape them, their parents tape them, and years from now they'll get a chance to look back on them and see themselves when they were just in 3rd grade.
To bring seasons, greetings, and every good thing.
We invite you to please stand as Top Shelf Grade 7 sings our national anthem.
My pleasure once again to host Critical Issues in Education. This is our 2003 winter edition of our programming efforts that we bring to you periodically to try to engage you in some provocative discussion about what we think are important issues that need to be discussed by the entire community. I thought possibly if we created a talk show type of environment, around identified issues that may be of significant importance and general importance to people. For example, last week's program being on internet safety and what parents and students need to be able to know and to do to protect themselves, and making sure that they're not straying off into some boundaries that they don't want to be. The second part of it was, other examples would include, discipline. We've had issues on school safety. We've had issues on the curriculum. So we try to take some topics that would have some generic impact to the broadest population, so that we could create some interest in policy development around those issues. And so it seemed natural for us to refer to them as critical issues in education, one single program concept, and then we try to generate some dialogue between the home audience, studio audience, and the education family in general.
Welcome to Critical Issues, the program that explores local educational issues here in Salem. Tonight's topic for discussion is student leadership in the Salem schools. We encourage you to participate by calling in with your questions and comments later in the program. And now your host, Henry Labranch, Superintendent of the Salem School District.
Good evening, and welcome once again to a second in a series of Critical Issues programs here that we are sponsoring on CTV 30, our learning channel. Tonight we're taking a slightly different approach than we have in the past several years that we've been running these programs. And we're going to feature some students who are leaders within our school communities at every level. We have quite an array of students here today. We have representatives from the Barron School, as well as the Woodbury and Salem High School. Tonight you're going to have the opportunity to hear from them, hear their views and their opinions about what they think is important in terms of leadership. Welcome to CTV 30. Caller, your comment or question, please.
Hi, I wanted to comment on a student that he wants to come back to school, and he's really motivated and he wants to come back, but for some reason they will not let him back in school because he cannot get a legal guardian. So is that true?
Well, of course, this started as a medium for the purpose of getting school board meetings out to the general public, so they could see the school board live and in action on a regular basis. And that has continued, and we've continued to expand that most recently this year by also including not only the regular meetings but the planning session meetings. We just talked briefly about the critical issues programming, which is a special way in which we create an opportunity to inform and educate the public. We also use this same medium for informing and educating the public about our school district meetings, our warrant articles, our special initiatives.
It may be a little too early to think about the fall in your child's first year of education, but here at the Salem School District, plans are already underway.
Hello, my name is Hank Labranch, the Superintendent of Schools here in Salem, New Hampshire. March is a very special time here in Salem for lots of reasons. Obviously, the community gets politically involved as town and school district meetings take place during this month. It's also a time, however, when we're planning for the next school year.
This is the Salem School Board, and tonight we'll be having a hearing on a bond article that the school board is bringing forward on their warrant this year. Let me start out by introducing the board members that are present tonight. To my right is board member Bernie Campbell, and to my left.
One of the nice aspects about the television production course is that so many memories have captured, from athletes that can look back in 10 and 20 years and look back at how their football game went, to somebody that was in a concert when they were in elementary school, and they've always got that memory to keep, and they can show their kids. And from the historical aspect, we can hand over a lot of our tapes that we've shot, presidents that have visited Salem, great events that we've captured on tape, and we can turn those tapes over to the historical committee, or and they'll keep them for all time, hopefully.
Let's look in at our milk party and see the happy children enjoying their fraps. Milk is delicious and good for you too. It gives us strong, healthy tea. milk is fun.
Yes, I have an article on the Salem Town Hall given by Howard S. Willis, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, and delivered in June 27, 1959. I can remember when they used to play basketball games in the old upstairs in the old town hall, the only building large enough to warrant that, and also many a drama or play, as we call, was given in the town hall.
We have with us tonight some very interesting people, and we are honored to have with us, starting from our left here, John Hanna and Dave Tipton and Sam Hollow. John, as you probably know, probably better than I, if you're a real football buff, is the offensive guard of the New England Patriots.
Would you believe it, Jeffrey, had to happen, huh?
The word this morning, as far as our Rockingham plans are concerned, is go. We have a great interest in producing a quality sports complex and entertainment center at Rockingham Park.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Art Berlin, Director of Media Services for the Salem School District. We'd like to welcome you to Election 81. Okay, part of our news coverage is to show you with a microwave unit out here on Spigot Hill. That's Channel 4's truck way at the top of the hill. That's Channel 5 trying to get out of the mud. Channel 4's truck had an interesting story. It came up here on Monday night and may not come down until Wednesday night, or may not come down until the springtime comes. A lot of mud up here. We bent the tie rods on the truck, but we do have a good microwave signal to Boston. This is just to give you an idea of how important this election is, not only to Salem, but to all of New England, particularly when you talk about the Bruins.
Because the question clearly says that if you want dog racing with the Boston Bruins, and nowhere does the word Boston Bruins appear on any warrant, that was part of the advertising gimmick. And you can alibi and you can call it anything you want, but it is a flagrant, and if it's not an illegal way to conduct an election, it's certainly immoral. For that reason, for the fourth time in 9 years, we have defeated dog racing in Salem, and I hope we can put that issue to rest.
So for all of us at CTVA, this is Art Berlin wishing you a very good evening. Good night.
Good night.
Jen and Leah are our next models, and Leah goes out in what we call our popcorn, the short look. It's a royal blue taffeta, V waistline, very off-the-shoulder look, and Leah does a beautiful job modeling it with those earrings, all provided by Filene's.
Well, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful, and since there's no place to go, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
The Salem High School Band, a most euphonious aggregation, to say the least.
Drivers on Route 28 ran into sheer chaos as they approached the Spigot River Bridge. Some of the heaviest damage was in economic losses that occurred when many stores surrounding the river were closed.
That's why there is diversification from school to school in Salem. And quite frankly, I wouldn't want it any other way. If you want something, spell it out exactly the way you want it and argue it out on the town floor, and I'm sure you got the ability to convince the people.
Go ahead. I'll give my opinion for whatever it's worth because I don't approve the article. I do not approve of the article. However, I do approve of giving the people the opportunity to vote, and I think that is what we're trying to do.
I honestly don't believe we can afford it. As late as tonight, I found out that we may be involved in another lawsuit which may take a tremendous amount of money from this district to give to the quote-unquote property poor districts within the state. We're being sued for that.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Guidance Update. I'm John Codd, Director of Guidance and Counseling at Salem High School.
I'm Jane Batts, an elementary school principal in Salem, New Hampshire. What you are about to see is a presentation by teachers who are participants in an open-ended teaching program called the Format Method.
I'm a man blessed. God has been good, and I'm certainly appreciative of everything here. I'm a lucky fellow. It's been a good life, and just thinking of what to say.
Members of the school board, I'd like to present to you with great pride the class of 2002.
Most memorable programs. I suppose you could say the student programs were memorable in many ways because they were live and they were interesting. And Mr. Miller always had his students do one program a week. We had Nancy Carney was a newscaster. Bernie Campbell was a weatherman. And they would read and recreate articles from the Salem Observer and the Eagle Tribune, but mostly the Salem Observer because it was a weekly broadcast, and did high school sports. And it was important because it was kids and it was local, and it had, you never knew what was going to happen. I just heard the first alarm on my scanner. Grab whatever equipment that you've got. We're going to the track, and we were probably behind one of the, at least the first responding companies, when literally we spent the day from one end of Rockingham Park to the other filming it as the fire kind of popped out, and we just watched the place, a little bit of Salem history go down, but we were able to share that tape with other fire departments in southern New Hampshire, and it got to be quite an experience. But it's an archive of something that Salem lost, and then rising from the ashes you have the track of today.
Back in 1996, the members of the fire department came to us asking if we could help them produce a video for a contest they were entering for Parkland Medical Center. They wanted to try to stop teens from drinking and driving. And they had this idea of Love Lies Bleeding. And it was sort of a takeoff on Scrooge, where this teenager would be visited by 3 spirits during the night. And now we said, okay, we'll do it. But the catch was we had to do it within a month. We had to do all the shooting and editing. And this was a 35-minute program. We did a lot of videotaping. We staged an accident over by the mall one night. It was a cold night in April. And we had a lot of people looking, wondering what was going on.
Where are all those trucks going? This is pretty cool.
You're not here to have fun.
What are we doing up here? Wow, this is so cool.
You're here to look and you're here to learn.
Hey, there's a car accident down there. It looks pretty bad.
Look closer, Steve.
Why is Amy on the ground? This looks like my dad's new car. My God, it is. Oh my God, what's happening?
That was the most memorable thing I did, was working on Love Lies Bleeding.
The most memorable ones are the slapstick comedy for the video yearbook, where we're dumping water on the superintendent or hitting the principal with a pie or throwing seaweed on the assistant superintendent. All kinds of nonsense, like having an earthquake in Salem High School. Putting those kinds of things together can be a lot of fun.
And as I do move on, I'd like to take this opportunity to express to the students and staff at Salem High School my sincere thanks for all the good times.
Just take those old records off the shelf.
May all your trails be happy ones.
One of the great things we've had are the auctions to raise funds for the performing arts, whether it be the chorus groups going to Florida or Washington, D.C., or the bands going to one of their great parades. These auctions have been huge fundraisers.
Yes, Top Shelf Productions was definitely on the road again, and this time to Washington, D.C.
Some of the funniest moments on SLC 6, I think, have taken place during those auctions. One, when I had to leave the set because I just couldn't stop laughing.
The video yearbook going for $18 right now. Hooray! Item do the next one, please. I can't see it. Item I-6. Pappuccino's gift certificate. It stinks down here. It's $10. Item I-7. The T-Bone's gift certificate is going for $50. Oh, we already had Bessie down here. Item I-8. The round of golf retails for $24. It's going for $20.
There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, just setting up, getting the set ready, all of the lighting and the camera work, running the phone lines down into the television studio. A lot of work goes on behind the scenes to make the auctions a great success.
I think what stands out in my mind the most was we were here in 1976, which was the bicentennial year, and Bill Brown, who ran Bill's Market, which is now the Red Barn here in town, ran a small museum and had some costumes, colonial costumes. So the anchor people, we dressed up in colonial costumes and went around to the different historic sites in Salem and interviewed historic people and the sites and talked about the history of Salem. And it was really an interesting project and aired all through the bicentennial. And I think that was my proudest piece of work and my most fun.
There are some programs which immediately come to mind as far as memorable projects. The first project we worked on, I had worked with the instructor of the planetarium that was at the high school. And he was tasked with having a planetarium program for grades 1 through 6. So what we did was we developed a 6-part video series on the planetarium. Each program, one for grade 1, a second one for grade 2, and so on, included instructor material delivered lesson plans, as well as worksheets for students to work with.
You know, I think we were very fortunate to grow up in a community where we had a program like this in place at the high school. It's amazing when you think that in 1971 they put a television production program in place. It just didn't happen back then. And to see how many careers it spawned back then and still is spawning to this day, it's amazing.
I think the Salem High School Media Center has a terrific future for a couple of reasons. One, we are in the information age. We are in an age where people need information to be able to make good decisions no matter what kind of role they're playing or what kind of profession or career they choose. And we're in an electronic media age, and the electronic media age really requires, I think, us to be pretty savvy with respect to the power and the potential of television, whether that's broadcasting internally on closed circuits or whether that's broadcasting outside.
I think part of what's really worked out well is that not only do you have educational access, but you also have, we now have community full-blown quality community access television, and it's great to see volunteers come in, just like we had teachers back in the 70s running cameras and doing things. Now we have people from, we did the critical issues program the other night on internet safety, and just before the program came on the air, about 14 community people suddenly poured into the studio, more than we could have ever wanted or asked for, and they were here, they knew what they were doing, and it worked. So that teamwork still works. The whole interesting aspect is a miniaturization of everything from where it was, and the digitizing of the digital editing capabilities, the capabilities of putting on programs that would rival, kids like to rival MTV, but would rival any news station anywhere. And it's easy with a little bit of training and a lot of dedication and a lot of time. But it's fun to have seen this start from nothing and to grow into something that hasn't gone away and has only improved year after year.
Hello, my name is Carl Wiest, and I'm the new principal here at Salem High School.
Again at our milk party and see the happy children enjoying their fraps. Milk is delicious and good for you too. It gives us strong, healthy tea. Milk is fun.
Let's let our imaginations wander a little bit, boys and girls, and let's pretend that we could actually contact someone on the planet.
Look at that, man. Check this out. Check this out. I can't take the glass off my head because it's stuck in my hair. Check it out. You see that? See that? Look at that. It's a budget committee hat.
Just doesn't get much worse than this.
Hi, guys.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed this look back at 30 years of Salem School District Television. Just imagine what the next 30 years will bring. For everyone here at Salem's Learning Channel, I'm Marty McCue. Thank you for watching.
Fade down the mic. Stand by to fade to black and fade to black. That's a wrap.